Don't miss this. The cosmic year resets. The 12 months ahead will be unlike anything you have lived. Tonight, the astrological year begins. Not the calendar year, not the fiscal year. The cosmic year, the one that ancient astronomers, Babylonian priests, Persian astrologers, and Greek stargazers all marked as the true beginning of the cycle. The moment the sun crosses 0 degrees Aries, the spring equinox, the point where light and darkness stand in perfect balance before light begins to win. And in any other year, this would simply be the beginning of a new astrological cycle, a reset, a fresh start, the annual invitation to plant what you want to grow before the next equinox arrives. But this is not any other year, and this is not any other Aries season. Because the year that is opening tonight is the first full astrological year to unfold entirely on the ground that was seeded by the rarest conjunction in recorded human memory. On February 20th, Saturn and Neptune met at 0 degrees Aries for the first time in approximately 9,000 years. At the exact same point the sun is crossing tonight, the world point, the first breath of the zodiac, the beginning of everything. That conjunction did not simply mark a moment in the sky. It rewrote the operating system of what is possible. And everything that has happened in the weeks since the total lunar eclipse that stripped the last veil from what you had been maintaining out of habit, the solar eclipse that sealed the new chapter into permanent form, Jupiter's direct station at its exaltation degree, Mars entering its home sign, every planet aligning in forward motion simultaneously, all of it was the preamble. The sequence that cleared the ground. Tonight is when the building begins. The 12 months that open tonight are not a continuation of what came before. They are the first full year of the new architecture. The first year you will live entirely on the ground that Saturn and Neptune declared on February 20th. The first year in which the structures you build will be built on the new foundation rather than the old one. And the difference between those two foundations, between the old world contract that expired this year and the new one that replaced it, is everything. By the time this video is over, you will understand what the Aries New Year actually initiates, why the 12 months ahead carry a weight and an opportunity that no astrological year in living memory has carried, and what you must do in the first 7 days of this cycle to make sure that what you plant in this window grows into something real rather than something rehearsed. Stay here, because the year begins tonight, and whether you are aware of it or not, you are already planting. Let me ground this in what is physically and astronomically happening. The spring equinox is one of the 2 moments each year when the Earth's axial tilt produces equal day and night across the entire planet. At the equinox, every location on Earth experiences approximately 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. The sun rises precisely in the east. It sets precisely in the west. There is no tilt toward or away from the sun, only pure balance. And then, immediately after the equinox, the tilt resumes. The northern hemisphere begins its long lean toward the sun. Days lengthen. The temperature rises. The soil that has been frozen or dormant begins to receive warmth again. Seeds that have been waiting underground feel the temperature change in the earth above them and begin, slowly, to respond. This is not metaphor. This is agriculture. This is the physical reality that every civilization that ever planted food understood as the beginning of the productive year. Before clocks, before calendars printed with numbers, before every other way of marking time, there was the equinox. The moment the light returned to dominance, the moment the year could begin. The Babylonians called the first day of the new year Akitu. It was their most sacred festival, not a celebration of what had been accomplished, but a ritual enactment of what was about to begin. The king of Babylon would perform a ceremony in which he symbolically renewed the divine mandate to rule not because the mandate had expired, but because each new year required a conscious redeclaration of direction. The ancients understood something that modern calendars have made easy to forget. A new year is not automatic. It requires intention. It requires the specific act of declaring what this cycle will be for. Otherwise, the year simply happens to you rather than being shaped by you. Tonight is your Akitu. The moment to declare, not simply to wish, not simply to hope, but to declare with the deliberate weight of a conscious choice what this year will be for. And the declaration you make in the first 7 days of this Aries season will be pressed into the most fertile ground that has existed in this zodiac in 9,000 years. Let me tell you what the sequence has built toward this moment. Because you did not arrive at tonight's new year beginning from ordinary ground, you arrived here from a sequence. And understanding that sequence is essential to understanding why this new year is different from every other one you have lived. It began on February 20th. Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, the rarest conjunction in recorded human history at the most initiating point in the entire zodiac. What that conjunction declared was nothing less than the dissolution of the old world contract and the opening of a new one. The contract between structure and dream, between what the law of Saturn said was possible and what the vision of Neptune insisted could be, was fundamentally rewritten. The rules governing what is allowed, what is achievable, what dreams are permitted to become real structures, those rules changed at a scale that has not happened in any living person's lifetime. Then came the total lunar eclipse on March 3rd at 12 degrees Virgo on the south node of the moon. The eclipse of release. The sky reaching into the daily structure of your life and identifying with surgical precision what had outlived its truth. What the south node pulls away, it pulls permanently. The veil that came down in that eclipse is not going back up. Then the solar eclipse in Aries, pressing the seal of the new chapter into permanent form. Then Jupiter stationing direct at 15 degrees Cancer, its exaltation degree, expanding the capacity to receive exactly what the old operating system had been restricting. The need that was buried, the nourishment that was deflected. The permission to ask for what you actually need, rather than managing on what you had decided was the safe amount to want. Then every planet aligning in forward motion simultaneously, for the first time since early November. The entire sky pointing in one direction. No drag, no review, no retrograde pull anywhere. Then Mars, entering Aries, arriving at its home sign, on the exact ground seated by the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, providing the action energy for everything the sequence had been revealing. Each event in this sequence was a preparation. Each one cleared something, revealed something, sealed something, or expanded something. And all of it has been preparation for tonight. The Aries New Year is the moment the preparation ends and the work begins. The ground has been seeded. The chapter has been sealed. The capacity has been expanded. The instrument of action has arrived. And now the sun crosses the threshold and the cycle officially begins. What you do with the first 7 days of this cycle will set the pattern for the 12 months that follow. This is not a superstition. It is a principle that every agricultural civilization understood intuitively. The conditions of the planting determine the character of the harvest. What is true of grain is true of intention. What you bring to the first week of the new cycle becomes the seed of everything that grows in it. And the ground you are planting in is not ordinary ground. It is the ground that Saturn and Neptune seeded with the rarest conjunction in living memory. Ground that is specifically capable of holding the dream that the old architecture could not support. Ground that does not require you to make yourself smaller to fit inside the structure. Ground that was built for the full-sized version of what you actually are and what you actually want. There are 3 things the first week of this Aries New Year is asking of you. Not as a ritual, not as a spiritual practice. As a practical engagement with the conditions the sky has spent the past 2 months creating, the first thing is naming the year. Not in the abstract, not with a word or a theme or a vision board, with a sentence that describes what specifically will be different about your daily life at the next equinox, the moment this year ends and the next one begins. Not what you hope will be different. What you are committing will be different. The difference between a wish and a commitment is that a wish asks the universe to deliver, and a commitment tells the universe what you are moving toward. Aries is the sign of the initiating force. It is not the sign of waiting to be delivered unto. It is the sign of pressing the first seed into the ground before anyone else is convinced it will grow. So the naming of the year is an Aries act. Not what do I hope for, but what am I pressing into the ground tonight? Write it down. On real paper, with a real pen, in specific language that a stranger could read and know exactly what you meant. The second thing is identifying the single most significant structural change the year needs to produce. Not a list of changes. One, the most significant one. The change that, if it happens, makes all the other changes more possible. The change that, if it does not happen, leaves the same ground in place that the past year was built on. You already know what this is. It is the thing you have been circling since February 20th. The thing that the lunar eclipse identified. The thing that the solar eclipse sealed around. The thing that Jupiter in Cancer kept returning to in the quiet hours. The thing that Mars entering Aries is now providing the energy to finally move toward. You do not need new information to identify it. You need the willingness to name it without immediately adding the reasons why it might not be possible. The third thing is taking the first action. Not planning the action, not scheduling the action, taking it. Within the first 7 days of this Aries season, the smallest possible real action in the direction of the structural change you just named, the one that, once taken, means you have begun. Because the Aries New Year does not reward intention that remains interior, it rewards the intention that becomes embodied. The seed that stays in the hand is not a seed. It is a potential that never became a plant. The same potential pressed into the ground, today, in the specific direction you have named, becomes the first root of the year's harvest. Let me tell you what becomes available in the 12 months ahead for people who plant with genuine intention in this window. Because the cycle opening tonight is not simply a new year, it is the first full expression of the new architecture. And the new architecture has specific qualities that the old one did not. The old architecture, the one that Saturn and Neptune's 3 6-year cycle maintained from 1989 until February 20th of this year, was built on a specific relationship between structure and dream. The structure came first, and the dream had to fit inside it. The law set the boundary, and the vision had to negotiate within those limits. This produced a world and a personal life in which what was real was what was structural, and what was dreamed was what was aspirational. And the gap between the two was managed through the mechanisms of settling, of compromise, of constructing a life that was good enough, rather than one that was genuinely aligned. The new architecture reverses that relationship. In the new architecture that Saturn and Neptune declared at 0 degrees Aries, the dream sets the direction, and the structure is built to serve it. Not a naive collapse of limitation. Saturn is still present, still disciplined, still insisting on genuine work and genuine foundation. But the purpose of that discipline has changed. In the old architecture, discipline was in service of maintaining the existing structure. In the new architecture, discipline is in service of building the new one. This means that the 12 months ahead are specifically supportive of projects, relationships, directions, and versions of yourself that could not have been built on the old ground because the old ground required them to be smaller than they needed to be. The things you set aside in the years since 1989 because they did not fit the structure. The version of your work that required more space than the old architecture allowed. The version of your relationships that required more honesty than the old contract could hold. The version of yourself that you practiced in private but could not bring fully into the public architecture of your life. These are the seeds the new year is asking you to plant, not because the external world has suddenly changed in ways that make them easy. It has not. The obstacles are still real. The work is still required. But the ground is different. The ground no longer works against those seeds. It works with them. That is the distinction, the 9, 000 year conjunction made at the world point. And the Aries New Year opening tonight is the first full cycle to unfold entirely on that changed ground. So when you step outside tonight, or when you sit in whatever space is yours at the hour this year begins, understand what you are standing inside. You are at the beginning of a cycle that the sky has been building toward since February 20th. You are on ground that was seeded by the rarest conjunction in recorded human memory. You are at the moment when the preparation ends and the planting begins. Name the year. Identify the structural change. Take the first action. Those 3 acts, performed in the first 7 days of this Aries season, are the seeds of the 12 months the 9,000-year cycle has been building toward. And what grows from them will be precisely as real as what you bring to the threshold tonight. Write in the comments what you are planting, not what you are hoping for, what you are committing to press into the ground in the first 7 days of this cycle. The person who comes after you in the comments section needs to read that specific, named, unhesitating commitment. It will tell them that the ground is real, that the planting is possible, that the year that opens tonight is unlike any year they have lived before because it is the first year of the new ground. Subscribe and turn on the bell because the 12 months ahead will unfold in phases, and I will walk you through each one as it arrives. What each season of this new year is asking for, what becomes available at each threshold, and how to make sure that what you planted tonight reaches its full harvest before the next equinox closes this cycle. The universe has spoken. What comes next is in your hands. There is one more dimension of this new year that deserves your full attention before the first week passes. Because the Aries New Year does not simply open a 1-2-month cycle. It opens the first 1-2-month cycle of a much longer arc, the arc that the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries initiated, and that will unfold across the next several decades as these 2 planets move through their new cycle together. Every 36 years, Saturn and Neptune meet and declare the terms of the next era. The last time they met was 1989. The world that emerged from that meeting shaped everything that followed the internet. The collapse of the Soviet Union, the globalization of information, the specific relationship between the individual and the collective that has defined the past 3 decades. That world is now complete. The cycle closed on February 20th, and the new cycle declared at that conjunction will unfold across the next 36 years. But the first year of that arc is the year that sets its character. The first year of a Saturn-Neptune cycle is the year that plants the seed of what the entire arc will grow toward, which means the 12 months opening tonight are not only the first year of your personal astrological cycle, they are the first year of the new collective arc. The first year of the next 3-6-year agreement between structure and dream. The first year in which what humanity will build across the coming decades begins to take its initial form. This is why the 12 months ahead will be unlike anything you have lived. Not because the events will necessarily be dramatic, though some will be, but because the ground itself is different. The agreement between what is possible and what is permitted has been fundamentally rewritten. And the year opening tonight is the first year of living into that rewritten agreement. What you plant tonight is not simply personal. Every genuine seed pressed into the new ground in the first year of a new cycle contributes to the character of the arc that follows. Every person who names the year with genuine intention identifies the structural change with genuine honesty, and takes the first action with genuine embodiment. Every one of them is participating in the planting of the new collective agreement. The first seeds of the next 36 years are being pressed into the ground across the first week of this Aries season, and the quality of what is planted will determine the character of what grows. This is not a burden. It is an invitation. The sky opened a window at the world point on February 20th. Every planet turned forward simultaneously on March 20th. The year that begins tonight is the first full cycle inside that open window. And for the first time in 9,000 years, the ground is ready for what you actually are, rather than the managed, accommodated, smaller version you have been fitting into the architecture of the old contract. The equinox is the balance point, light and dark in perfect equilibrium. And then immediately after, light wins. The year tilts toward the sun. The seeds reach toward warmth. The new architecture shows what it can hold. Press the seed in tonight. The ground is ready. The year is beginning. The light is winning. And 9,000 years of accumulated potential in the ground beneath your feet is ready to receive what you are willing to bring to it. Not what you intend to bring eventually, what you are pressing in tonight. The first seed of the first year of the new era. Plant it deliberately. Plant it honestly. Plant it in the specific direction of the structural change you named. And then tend it with the same deliberate honesty through every phase of the 12 months that follow. Because this is the year the new ground shows what it can hold. And it can hold more than the old ground ever could. More than the old architecture ever allowed. More than the version of yourself that learned to fit inside the old contract ever dared to plant. The equinox has arrived. The astrological new year is open. The 9,000-year cycle has cleared the ground and handed you the seed. What you do with the next 7 days is the beginning of the rest of this era. The universe has spoken. And for the first time in a very long time, the ground agrees.